Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our webinar. Today, we are going to be discussing about Christmas retail strategies and basically everything that is associated with the Christmas rush during the retail. We know it's a little bit early and Christmas is not here yet, but at the same time, based on our experience, we know that the preparation for the Christmas starts way before the date and requires a number of steps that have to take place. So my name is Andy and I'm sales team lead at LEAFIO AI. And also today is joining me Helen Com. Helen?
Hi, my name is Helen Com and I'm the product director of LEAFIO Inventory Optimization Solution. Thank you very much for having me here.
Pleasure to have you here today, Helen. So during the today webinar, I will quickly introduce our company. So LEAFIO AI is an international company, already been on the market for the 15 years. During this time, we have implemented more than 200 projects in 30 countries, and all our customers are supported by our 120 employees, which are located worldwide, but also in our two principal offices in the United States and Estonia. Generally speaking, we specialize in the solutions that are dedicated specifically for supply chain operations in retail management, and that's where the experience for this webinar comes from. So during the today, we will discuss first of all the key challenges that retailers face during the Christmas. So again, some of the hints, what should you potentially look out for? After that, of course, we will have decide on checklist. What can we check, review to prepare your inventories for the Christmas rush? And of course, then we will show how it can be solved if you take the retail platform, if we have those processes in a digital environment and we digitalize our processes where possible. And of course, to finalize on the presentation, we will also discuss some useful hints that could be useful for you even now when preparation for the upcoming period. If we are ready to start, then let's go and start speaking about those challenges by itself. So as we all know, Christmas is indeed a celebratory mood, celebration environment. But if we are comparing among different industries, retail is the industry that suffers from the highest spike in demand and, of course, highest increase in workload. And of course, as a matter of fact, there are a number of consequences they have to prepare for. Because we understand that, again, the goods that we are selling are highly seasonal and majority of the goods are highly seasonal, of course, and Christmas is the period where the seasonality kicks in. And one of the biggest challenges and the challenge that can really deteriorate our operations if, of course, it's not only we are the ones who are overloaded, but so are our suppliers. It's not only our shops and not only our chain who makes double or triple orders during such period, but also all other chains with who our suppliers are cooperating. So, of course, the risk of supplier failing us, not being able to deliver the requested quantity is also very large, and we have to work for it. And of course, we understand that would highly depend on how seasonal is the particular product that our suppliers are providing. But to give you an idea, for most extreme examples, if something to do with technology, if something to do with toy retailers, something to do which is heavily associated with Christmas presents, then we understand that in a month's time, the sales can equal to the total sales of that particular company within the whole year or within the remaining 11 months. So of course, some preparation needs to be done in order to ensure that our suppliers can be delivered and we can ensure sufficient goods during this seasonal period. Another very important challenge that number of category managers are facing is actually how can we identify which items are specifically going to grow? So we can definitely understand that out of my categories, let's say champagne, will it grow in sales during Christmas? Most definitely. In vast majority of the world, people are celebrating Christmas and drinking champagne. But the question is, which are the particular items out of all our assortment that are going to grow and that are going to grow the most? Again, so it's very important not only identify the category by itself, but also specific SKUs and items that are there. At the same time, when we are speaking about the Christmas rush, we understand that the logistics of the Christmas can be significantly higher, and basically to do with a significantly increased number of operation. So if we are now that within a period of a month, we are going to be selling like significantly more product, then we also need to understand that we might require a significantly more storage in our warehouse in order to be able to support such operations. We also might require a significantly higher capacity for our fleet, whether we have our own fleet, whether it's an outsourced, we still need to ensure that our service provider is capable to deliver on the increased demand, on the increased spike. And the same case if it's our own. So if, for instance, we required for one location 3-4 routes before, then we might require a significantly higher quantity. Unfortunately, challenges are not finished, and there are a number of others that are happening. One of the things, we understand that we work in a very dynamic world, and some things that we've been selling a year ago, it might not still be relevant today. We might not be selling those items. And for instance, we can understand that because of the changes in the assortment, for instance, we don't have a last year information about how did those products perform during the Christmas period. And of course, that's an additional challenge, because without that kind of history of how did the product perform during this period, very difficult to identify how it will be performing during this year. Again, it could be caused by another issue. You might be certain that you haven't changed that much of a product, but what if your supplier fails you and you have to, in a very force majeure manner, to add an additional SKU to your assortment list? And of course, this is a challenge. How are you going to forecast it, and how are you going to predict its behavior during the rush? Also, very important to understand that there are a number of factors that are influencing the demand for the products during this time. First of all, of course, it's a seasonal demand. People are buying presents, people are preparation, but we cannot forget about the fierce competition that's coming. And apart from overall associations of Christmas with more shopping, there are a number of promotions that are going to be run by your competitors and are going to be run for you. And again, it's very important to understand that those different factors can have a different effect. And for instance, if we had different conditions on our promotions during the last Christmas, during the last year, then of course that forecast might not be applicable, and that forecast might be wrong, because maybe promotional conditions have changed, and we need to ensure that we adjust both factors that are influencing our demand in accordance. At the same time, another very interesting challenge that one of the customers shared is, of course, additional layout of the goods. When we go to shop on the Christmas, we like to go to the nice, larger supermarkets, some of the larger type of stores, and we all like layouts that they make a Christmas tree out of bottles of champagne or some candles, or another, basically a very festive type of layouts that help us get into the mood faster, and of course probably increase the share of the purchases that we were planning to do. But it's very important to understand that, first of all, that additional layouts of goods do require additional inventories. And if you don't have any additional inventories, we won't be able to make those additional layouts. It's also very important to have a very smart tactic towards it, because if you create a number of additional layouts which won't correspond to your expected sales, which won't correspond to your expected sales results, it implies that at the end of this period, you might have a huge amount of the goods which you didn't sell when planned, but you still have to sell it. And of course, it will result in excessive frozen capital, and as a result, deteriorated financial performance. Also, another challenge which our customers share with us is that approach for the different store formats also should be different, because a number of customers and majority of the retailers, they are working with different formats. They're working, again, the format would be depending on where the customer lives, what does the customer like, demographics of the customer, and what are his shopping habits. And if we look at the groceries, we can have, for instance, supermarket and convenience store. But we understand that in terms of the assortment and preparation for the Christmas, it would be very different. Because if I go to the supermarket during the Christmas period, it implies I'm preparing for a family meal, for a festive celebration, and I'm buying everything, as many products as possible, to make sure that every uncle and every aunt is having their favorite dish, and we are having this mood. But if I understood that I forgot some really important ingredients, and I understood that, you know, my nephew's meal is not going to be ready, or some kind of other force majeure, I'm not going to go all the way back to the supermarket, which is going to have a huge queues. I'm actually going to go to the convenience store and ask for the specific ingredients. So again, it's very important to identify between different formats what are the products going to be in demand during the Christmas period, depending whether it's a larger format, smaller format, and who those formats are designated for, and what is going to be the reason for them to be coming over. Also, it's very important to plan and allocate workload in logistics, purchases, and operational stuff. While we discussed that, again, there might be a limitation in terms of capacity for our storage. There might be a limitation in terms of capacity of our fleet, but we cannot forget that there also could be a limitation in capacity in terms of our staff. If, for instance, we receive 3 times as many goods during this period, do we have enough capacity on the store level to collect those goods, to shelve those goods accordingly, to receive those goods? Do we have enough drivers? Even if we have enough fleet, do we have enough drivers to bring those goods from the warehouse to the store? Again, do we have enough people in the warehouse that would be able to distribute on this schedule? So again, ensuring that there is going to be sufficient capacity beforehand is extremely important. And last, but definitely not least, and unfortunately, we hear more and more stories on the regular basis of what is happening during the Christmas rush. Because of course, if you're selling 3 times more and you're not too much expanding in terms of your capacities, it implies you're gonna dedicate probably less attention and less effort to some of the things. And of course, as the result of some manual operations, the result of some miscommunications, big force majeures can occur. And it's important to be able to quickly adjust and change to the force majeure situation. For instance, we work with one of the customers very much specialized in alcohol drinks and different types of wine. And one of the interesting stories they told us, because initially they had a manual process of ordering, one of the managers, instead of 30 bottles of the most expensive wine, which they predicted to be sold during the period, and we are speaking about extremely expensive wine, which goes like in hundreds of dollars, he ordered 300 bottles, which of course, just in one operation, one click, has created a significant overstocks for the customer. And of course, now they need to understand what to do, to negotiate with the supplier, to take some part of the assortment, or maybe change, some of the assortment and try to promote more. But the important part is, of course, force majeures are going to happen, and you need to be ready, and you need to be ready to adjust for them. So those are the key challenges that our retailers are facing, and those are very common among the retailers that we have. And right now, I will pass the floor to Helen, who will actually discuss how to resolve them.
Yes, thank you, Andy, very much. So, and now we are going to discuss the checklist. Basically, it is a step-by-step plan that is based on our experience with dozens of our customers. We definitely understand how difficult it is to plan and to prepare for the upcoming holidays. And especially if considering Christmas like as a huge holiday for all the verticals of the retail business, as of course we were like in the first part, we were very focused on the issues that are connected with the grocery retail. But despite that, all the verticals, they are struggling with some issues that are connected with the increase in demand and the upcoming promotional activities that are increasing as well during that period of time. So the main challenge here is to prepare the balanced quantity for the last 2 days or weeks, some period of time that can be specific depending on the retail vertical and depending on the store format. So for the supermarkets, for larger formats, of course, you need to be prepared a little bit in advance if to compare it with the C-stores or some smaller formats. So in order to achieve the great result in terms of the predictive preparation of this balanced quantity, we have prepared the checklist, and in the end of our webinar, you will have an opportunity to receive this checklist on your email if you will want to receive it, of course. So the first step is to identify the list of the items that will definitely increase in sales. So based on our experience, it can be rather hard because usually the periods of time when we are having the seasonal spikes, at the same time we are having the promotional spikes. And if you don't have the strict system that will definitely identify and will distinguish the seasonal sales, so the sales that are connected with this specific period of time, and the promotional sales, it will be very extremely hard to make the forecasting for the upcoming period. That is why in LEAFIO inventory optimization solution, our machine learning model is identifying these sales automatically and is identifying the SKU and even SKU locations that will definitely have this increase in sales. It is obvious that for the category of champagne or alcohol drinks in Europe, for example, in the category of some, let's say, cans that can be also used and consumed during the Christmas holidays, there is a list of categories that are not so obvious in terms of their increase in sales. For example, the household chemicals are increasing significantly during the Christmas holidays because people are preparing their homes to holidays, or they want to make them clean after all the celebrations are already done. So this step is very important because starting from that point, we are identifying which exact SKUs need the increased forecast and need to be ordered in the increased quantity. The next step is to decide where the increased quantity need to be stored before the start of the sales spike. So Andy was mentioning that depending on the store format, there can be increase or even decrease in sales during some holiday spikes, but at the same time, it really depends on the capacity of the supply chain, let's say, and the structure of the supply chain. So currently we have a customer who has 4 different levels in their supply chain, and they need to definitely understand where exactly on which level of the central warehouse, distributional center, or regional warehouse or stores this increased quantity will be stored due to the limited capacity of each and every level of the supply chain. Usually it is done by logistics that based on the projected or last year's results, they are deciding which exact SKUs will be stored on each level of the supply chain. The third step is to make a queue or a schedule of items in order to be delivered to the distributional center or stores. Usually it is done by categories, so the schedule is done together, the logistics with the category managers, as Andy mentioned, and it is very important that not only you have increase in sales, but all the retail in like your competitors in your sphere, or not even competitors, but all the retail has some increase in demand. That is why it is the very loaded period for the suppliers and vendors. That is why it is very important to prepare for this period in advance. And this queue or schedule really helps our customers to understand when exactly are we going to receive this or that category, this or that items, this or that suppliers and vendors on the level of the storage locations, nevertheless to the distributional center or the store. The fourth point is to identify the new SKUs that are predicted to increase in sales. It is a very tricky point, as we don't have the historical data for the new SKUs. That is why in LEAFIO inventory optimization solution, we have 4 different strategies how to work with the new SKUs and how to predict their increase in sales based on their category role, first of all, because it is a very big difference whether this new SKU is a substitute of the existing one, or it is just a new SKU in the existing category, and we need to align these sales and the overall sales of the category. Usually we use the cluster analysis for these projections. So this is done automatically with the help of LEAFIO inventory optimization solution, but at the same time, due to the high percentage of the item rotation, we definitely understand that without any kind of automation, it is extremely hard to make the proper calculations for the new SKUs, for the new introduced items. The fifth step is to calculate the forecasted increase demand and divide it into the parts according to the recommendation in the point number 3. So definitely, when we are creating this queue or a schedule, we need to understand that, for example, we are planning to receive not the whole batch of Coca-Cola or sparkling wine or whiskey or pineapples once, since we need to understand that we are forecasting to have 70% of this batch of sparkling wine by 11th of November and 30% by 20th of November, to ensure that we definitely have this quantity in place. We definitely have the necessary items due to the forecasted increased demand, but at the same time, we are dividing these deliveries into batches not to overwhelm the logistics capacities of the supplier and at the same time of the internal supply chain. And to define the order dates for stores and warehouses, to have the deliveries according to the identified queue or schedules. So it is usually done when we have the full list of these deliveries, when we understand that we are having, for example, 100 deliveries for the increased demand, for the categories that are having the increased demand. And you need to plan how the logistics would be done and by which date or the order need to be generated to ensure that the delivery date will be in terms of some specific period of time. It is done also automatically by our solution. It is calculated based on the projected date when this quantity needs to be on the storage location, on the store level or on the distributional center, and the system based on the supplier schedule will calculate the particular order date and will calculate the increased order quantities to ensure that it will actually happen. And the next point, that after receiving the increased stock, it is very important to proceed with the regular orders From one point of view, it is extremely obvious, but at the same time, as we are having thousands of SKUs, and in terms of SKU locations, it can be even millions of SKU locations. It is very hard to keep track of each and every SKU if it is not done automatically. So sometimes it can happen that without the necessary level of automation or without the system that is not considering these specific points, it can be an option that, for example, you have prepared in advance, everything was calculated properly, and the deliveries were done timely, and everything works very smoothly. But at the same time, this increased quantity started to be this quantity is sold during the period of time prior the beginning of the specific seasonal period. And of course, it influences everything. And by the beginning of the seasonal spikes, it can be a situation or a case where you don't have enough quantity to cover the demand. So it is extremely important to ensure that you are proceeding with the regular orders, especially when you are preparing in a couple of months in advance. It is necessary to identify the end date of the demand spike. Yes, of course, it is, because it is important for the system to understand when exactly do we need to return to the normal, let's say, regular sales based on some historical data. Usually it is done automatically. Sometimes it can be done manually, especially when we don't have enough historical data, and unfortunately it happens all the way along. And very important to analyze the efficiency of all actions by the end of the increased sales to prepare better for the next seasonal spikes of demand, to continuously improve this process. This is our recommendation for all the huge holidays, activities, promotional activities, gender holidays, and etc. So it is great when there is a place and time to sit together with all the departments that are involved in the preparation, starting with the logistics and commercial department, ending with the operational department, marketing. So everybody who is involved in this process, and to understand what went wrong, and not to find who is responsible for that, but to understand how the process can be improved in order for the future to be better in terms of the preparation and overall success in terms of the seasonal sales. I have found an interesting example that is an illustration to the situation when something is not aligned in terms of the preparation. So it is an example of the Asti Martini, where we did have, as Andy mentioned, these increased layouts during the holiday period, but the sales are not so high. So the holiday period ended, but unfortunately the layout, the additional layout was so huge. The gray zone here is identifying the size of the layout. So it was extremely huge. Probably it was negotiated with the suppliers, but afterwards we remain with a very high level of the quantity on hand, and of course it influences the inventory turnover and the cost of inventories in general, and is leading to the frozen capital issues that are not helping us to develop either the assortment range or to develop the retail chain in general. Just a second, I will, in a few moments, I will demonstrate how we are making it happening in the solution itself. So first of all, we have the so-called abnormal demand days. which is the plain calendar where we have the identification of some holiday periods. For example, here we have the gender holiday, the St. Valentine's Day, Thanksgiving Day, and of course the preparation for Christmas itself. It helps the system to, first of all, to understand the particular dates, and secondly, to for such kind of holidays like Easter that are not happening during the same period of time. So we have the variable dates each and every year. The system is able to identify that this particular period of time last year and the year before last year was happening not at the same time of the year, and to, in order to calculate the forecast, the machine learning model of LEAFIO inventory optimization solution is using slightly different periods of time and slightly different assortment range that was increased in sales during the preparation for the holidays. One more thing, one more thing I wanted to share is the holiday deliveries list. So it is a special functionality in LEAFIO inventory optimization solution that basically helps to make all these plans and logistics and to divide all the SKUs into the deliveries with the help of the very intuitive solution. So as an example, we have the sparkling wine preparation, and you can see that the same category is divided into 3 deliveries by 11th, 18th, and 12th of December 2024. And here we have identified that we are expecting to have 20% of the expected increased demand by 11th of December. And there is a number of settings. It is very easy to make the settings happening. So basically the percentages, the dates, and of course adding the particular sparkling wine SKUs into the table with the products to ensure that all the necessary SKUs will increase in demand. Going back, and pretty the same logic with whiskey. So there is a range of settings that need to be set to ensure that we are prepared properly. But in general, the level of automation is very high here. And the last but not the least, the general understanding how and when exactly are we going to prepare for the Christmas holidays, and at the same time, which promotional activities will take place at the same time. So it can happen that we have the situation when the promotional activities and the preparation for the Christmas holiday or gender holidays or Easter are overlapping between the same SKUs. The system is calculating the demand forecast, in this case, totally automatically without any human intervention. But demand planner or supply planner usually wants to understand what is going on with all type of activities we are preparing for. That is why we have created so-called promotional calendar that can show which types of the promotional activities are we going to have, and at the same time, which type of other activities are we going to have. So here we have the overlapping between the different types of promotional activities. And one more important point here, that of course the system, so our today's topic is the preparation for the Christmas holidays, but of course the system has a functionality to calculate the promotional demand forecast. It is done also by the machine learning model, and the forecasting accuracy is rather high based on the fact that we are using a huge variety of different factors that are connected with the upcoming promotional activities. And going back to our presentation, just a couple of useful hints that can help you in this year's preparation for the holidays. So the increased quantity must stay untouched. So it was one of the last point from the checklist. So till the beginning of the seasonal sales, it needs to be considered by the auto replenishment system. It can seem obvious, but believe us, it is not so obvious. And we have a lot of cases with our customers, despite the fact they have very high level of automation, they have the auto ordering system and everything like worked properly. This was a blind point in their processes. The process is fundamental. So before starting any kind of preparation, you need to see the process. So to identify the cues, to see how it will be working, on which exact levels of the supply chain, if you have some, and so on. So process is fundamental. And in this process, of course, it is fundamental as well. So the promotional forecast must be calculated separately from seasonal projection and then multiplied. So if you're calculating it manually, you definitely need to consider that we are having seasonal spike and at the same time we're having the promotional spike, so it needs to be considered. If you have it automated, like with our solution, you do not need to do anything here. The system will do everything for you. All calculations must be done using storage capacity as a basis. So definitely not to prevent the situation of the collapse on the storage locations. You need to know how much space do you have in terms of all the storage locations, not to have the situation when there is no place, especially when it's cold and you cannot store some products outside and you don't have the back room, so it can be a problem. The supplier's holiday should be considered during the order calculation. So it is a very frequent situation that after the end of the spike of demand, some suppliers and vendors are having their own holidays and they are not able to receive and to deliver the orders. That is why something needs to be done here, something needs to be done automatically. So in particular, our solution is taking into consideration the supplier's holiday and is not placing the orders during these periods of time. But at the same time, as the system has this information in advance, we are preparing for such kind of periods in advance. So the system is increasing the forecast prior the supplier's holidays to ensure that we will have enough quantity on hand to cover the demand during this period of time. And the problems and mistakes discussion after the end of the season have to be made as well as conclusions to ensure they won't happen in future. Of course, this is a lesson learned that is extremely important to have for you, and from the standpoint of not making somebody responsible for some problems, but to ensure that they will not happen in future, in the next year, for example, or during the next holiday. Thank you very much for your attention. If you have some questions, I will be extremely happy to answer them. Otherwise, thanks. It was great.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And please, if you have any additional questions or you would like a consultation with the LEAFIO team and our consultants, how to help to manage your inventories better during the Christmas rush or any other period, please feel free to reach out to us by the contact information available here, our website, www.leafio.ai, or our email address or the phone number directly. Thank you very much for your time you spent on this webinar. We're really hopeful it was useful for you and hope to see you again, maybe during our personal meetings or during the next and upcoming webinars. Thank you very much.
Thanks. Have a nice day.